I just wanted to point out before this begins that I am struggling like anybody with emotional regulation, because most of me wants to go into fight mode, like fight or flight mode, all the time over abuse. What I believe is that we are going from BC to AD. It's not going to be like, oh, technology has been going up exponentially and then all of a sudden it shoots up. Yeah, that's obviously happening. I mean that the way life is going to exist right now for the future, from this point on, is absolutely going to sit with the divine feminine. No more patriarchy, none of that. They don't have the power anymore, period, okay? They don't have the power. The only thing left is to convince all of you that we have the power. Me, you, us. We have the power, okay? Got it. I have this notebook. It's my journal. I have been keeping it since February of last year, and I wrote this journal entry, and I went back and read it last night and was just shocked at how little has changed and how true it actually is. And this is from March 1st of last year. Okay, understand when I say this that I believe magic is science we haven't uncovered yet. Some magic is real. What I've seen is subtle, and it should always be used for good. My guess is it works differently for every person because we all vibrate differently. In my case, I've been able to adjust or influence some of those vibrations. I do it through visualization, but again, everyone communicates and understands differently. So do what you feel most called to do. Once I figured out I could do this, I realized why my life has been so hard. Imagine being your own worst critic, and the world responds by making everything respond to you in a way to make the worst of what you think true. Psychology can tell us this much is true. We manifest good and bad realities for ourselves. The thing that gets me is how it works. You could say it's body language, subtle movements inform a lot. Sorry, I have bad handwriting. So do smells, and we are learning a lot more about what our scents tell us about how our body is functioning. But the fringe discusses the obvious: electricity. Each atom is 99% open space vibrating. Think of emotions like a color wheel. There is what we experience normally: happy, sad, angry, scared. This is similar to Roy G. Biv. You can mix emotions. You can amplify them the way you can sounds or tastes or smells. That's why more anger doesn't ever lead to less anger. It just leads to maximum anger until you run out of energy and sleep or rest, which is what solves the problem. You can mix emotions and get something nuanced like contemplative or crying or happy tears, but there are colors we can't see. I'm suggesting there are emotions that work similarly. We can't change colors to ever experience purple or yellow, for example. We can wear them, my handwriting. We can wear them or bask in them, but we can't become them. However, we can become emotions. I'm suggesting there are emotions so big, so epic, that they literally fuel the world we can't see, and thus the world we can see. The ripples of emotions we feel create waves into the emotions we can't. We have so much fear and anger that the whole planet is reverberating constantly in those emotional fields. While a person might lose energy and fall asleep, people don't. Someone is always awake to bask in and continue us into low vibrational emotions. Like the color wheel, there are high vibrational emotions like joy and excitement. The low vibe emotions are the ones infecting everyone, like fear and anger. And I have an example for that. I'm just going to cut away from this for just a second. I now think of it like waves on an ocean. Like, let's say you have a body of water and the ripples in a pond, or however you want to think of it. But you have the waves, and then you have the still water. The water in the still water is barely moving. You're not going to get very far. So those are the low vibrational. You get stuck in those low vibrational energies, and it's hard to get out of them, like fear. So it's very controlling because it's hard to get out of it, but it takes a lot. So you have like nations use fear to try to control populations because they are big entities with trying to have lots of power all at once. So if they utilize fear, it can keep you stuck in this little place, and it's very hard to get out of it. But if you can manage to get that wave going, be the ripple in the pond, your energy, just that energy, just you being in that happy, bubbly, upbeat, high vibrational mood, it affects other people. They get caught in your wave. You create this emotional wave, and then they get pushed out of their low vibrational, and then they're able to do things in their life that are part of the wave. They're not out of fear, but out of love. They create better lives for themselves because you had the vibration, because you overcame the fear. So you have to stay out of the fear and go into the love. See what I'm saying? Okay, that's how I think of it now. That's a good example. So, but it's not just a matter of being awake in the literal term, not spiritual. Emotionally charged events, in fact, infect you with that emotion. If you can't pay your bills, you become infected with fear. If someone cuts you off in traffic, you become infected with anger. There are also life-rupturing events. The trauma is so massive that every moment before and every moment after is situated into before or after the trauma. It's the type of emotion, so low vibrational that your brain changes. It's called bifurcated memory. We aren't meant to experience that on the daily. It's like peering into infrared for a moment. You get the tiny peek of those emotions that are beyond the normal range. What the world does now is to bathe you in low vibrations on the daily. those low vibrational waves. And we accept what we are forced into under threat of a bifurcating trauma, because no one wants those traumas. If you don't pay your bills, low vibe constant, then you're going to end up homeless, bifurcating level trauma. I consider that just as abusive and traumatizing as being in a bad relationship. It's manipulative, it's controlling, it's immoral, it's deadly. And agreeing to that makes it very easy to put value on someone based on if they can be productive enough to pay those bills. You know how street signs are all different? Oh yeah, that also reminds me. To anyone who is going to be propping up that system, like, you are, to me, that is the same as saying, okay, we're going to help you to live with that abusive relationship. We're going to help you to cope because it's impossible to get out of that abusive relationship. There is always a way to get out of an abusive relationship. There are a few instances where it is so hard that even I don't know how to get out of it, but I believe there is a way, and we have got to find the way. Period. No more abuse. Period. End of story. That is the point of my whole fucking life. Get out of the abusive relationship between us and our government. Period. End of story. You know how street signs are all different colors and shapes? That is to convey different information. You know pretty well how to pay attention based on the shape and color, but the words or photos are printed on them if it's needed. We've created a world that now runs on stop signs. It consistently manipulates you to go in the direction a few want, just a few, by changing your emotions. Anytime someone is loud enough to point out all the stop signs, they are either discredited or criminalized. That is where you end up someone being called an eco-terrorist because they're trying to protect the water rights of indigenous people. Things like that happen all the time, and you are manipulated into believing that they're the bad person for trying to protect their rights. They are not. The world runs on emotions. We have entire industries to help us navigate around those negative emotions. Those industries don't help us fix the problems, just hack the system. It's like treating the symptoms but not the cause. That's why being joyous is an act of rebellion. Some tend to see joy as only an act to achieve or as an emotion for the naive. But you know how you can laugh so long, the laughter itself becomes funny? You can live fully in reality, even as it's burning down around you, and you can circle back around to joy, to love, to happiness, to excitement. You ignore those stop signs, and you uncover a world of emotions that are supposed to be normal, but are constantly gatekept behind checkpoints. An emotion has no physical barrier. No one can stop you from joy but yourself. Trick is you can't fake it. Fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it leads to burnout and dysregulation. That can affect your nervous system, and then you end up with very real illnesses that you have to address. You have to feel those emotions our whole culture is saturated in, address them, and resolve them while being bombarded with tomorrow's sorrows. That's why, it's my opinion, the less money you have, the less likely it is for counseling to work. I didn't even realize I had this in here, but you have more to lose with every daily trauma, let alone if you add bifurcating level trauma to that. That doesn't even address the fact that you're less able to access resources, even free ones. For years, I've thought how to address the problem from the physical. I've thought up the most ridiculous ideas like religions. I really did think of, like, how do we have religion as a secular religion to try to skirt certain laws that religions use to make wealth, whatever, it doesn't matter. So why don't people make a new religion? And not so terrible ideas like having, not so terrible ideas like having a panel at the UN to address povertyism, but that was already tried and rejected before it got off the ground. Surprise, surprise. Because povertyism is just like any other kind of bigotry. Stop beating up poor people. You're being a bigot. There are legal loopholes everywhere. The rich can do as they please. You can learn whatever they are learning and go manipulate the system the way they do, which will always leave the system in place. That will leave the system in place if you're utilizing it, or we can change the system, which I've seen a lot of people come up with ideas to change the system, and that's awesome. We need to have a whole new system, and I heard someone talking about that last night. We need to have a completely different system. Completely different system. Not use the system to your advantage. No. New system. New ways of being. Unity. Cooperation. Not individualism. Sorry, just not, you're not separate. We're all together. We're all one thing, okay? Why don't we just go to the source? Emotions run the world. We can crumble the whole injustice of our reality by not consuming those emotions they are shoving into our faces. I'm going to tell you how I have been doing that, but you have to stick with me. It's gonna sound nuts. Remember, magic is science. We have it uncovered, and we are all just vibrations. The wave. Be the wave. So, what I'm doing is a type of meditation. I've gotten to a point I can do it while I walk around. It won't work for everyone, but I think of it like a buffet. Take what you like and leave the rest. Lord, that was Alain de Botton's idea about religion, by the way. Lord knows I keep changing my own rules and adding to this. That's how I got this method. Years of hodgepodge bits of different meditations or information. So basically I go into the meditation. I'm going to put that in a different video because first I want you to understand why. I have some clips, and actually I'm going to sum up those clips because anytime I put clips on it, it's bad. So I'm going to sum up what those clips are and put the links to the actual clips in my next video, because it's all about light, a particular kind of light. And I keep trying to explain to people that it's a big deal and it's not like other light. And it's kind of my whole message. So, all right, bye.